In this video, we're going to look at song mode. As the name suggests, song mode can be used to arrange patterns into an order to make up the structure of a song. But in fact, song mode is a list of events, and whilst those events can be patterns, they can also be tempo changes, repeats, mute and solo states, and subsongs. Let's look at the song mode itself. To load it, hit the song button in the top left and you'll be greeted with a blank song menu. The top number shows you the song you are working with. This can be song 0 through to song 99, and as ever you can navigate through them using the encoder, arrow keys or keypad. To the right of this is the song's bass tempo, and each song has its own, which we'll look at more as we use song mode throughout this video. To change the bass tempo, press the tempo button and then use the encoder, arrow keys or keypad as usual. If you tab to the written song number, which defaults to 1, you can select it by pressing Enter or F6 and then give it a name of your choosing. The song name will always be the first event in the list, and it cannot be erased, and the song ending event, which defaults to stop but can be a number of things, will also be the last event in the list, and it cannot be erased either. To insert and edit events, we use several keys. If you need a quick list of those, just hit Help, as you can do in most areas of the S2400, but I'll go through them one by one now. Record/edit toggles between the song number and the editor. Run/stop plays the song, although we haven't made one yet, and there is also some shift plus run/stop functionality that we'll look at once we have some material to work with. F1 inserts an event, and erase gives you the options to erase that event, or even the song itself. If you insert an event, you can use the encoder or arrow keys to choose what that event is. Firstly, repeat. This is a single event or group of events that repeat, and you can define the number of repeats from ×2 to ×99. Next, tempo. As mentioned before, a song has a bass tempo in the top right, but you can use a tempo event to define a new tempo from a given point. This tempo will remain in effect until there is another tempo event, or until the song restarts, whereupon the bass tempo is resumed. There is a second option, which is relative tempo, and this is denoted with a plus and minus symbol. This is the same as before, but instead of defining a new absolute tempo, this changes relative to the song's bass tempo. This can be plus or minus. So if you're using relative tempo changes, you can then change the song's bass tempo, and all those relative tempo events will move with it, whereas absolute tempo events will not be affected by changes to the bass tempo. Swing. This defines a new swing value from 50 to 75%. You can toggle between eighths or sixteenths by pressing 8 and 6 on the keypad. Mute. This defines the mute state of your tracks. This can be for all or any of your banks, and tracks will remain in their current state until there is another mute event. Use the encoder or bank button to cycle through the banks and select tracks using the associated number on the keypad. For example, if you want to mute tracks A1, A3 and A5, I would press 1, 3 and 5 on the keypad whilst bank A is selected. You can also use the mute buttons themselves. Solo. This works the same as mute, but with the soloed or unsoloed state of a track or tracks. Subsong. This plays another song once and then returns to the original song. The end event of the subsong will be ignored, so it won't just stop or loop, and if the subsong already contains a subsong itself, that will be ignored. Lastly, pattern. This inserts a pattern, and you can then choose which pattern that is. F2 is a shortcut key to insert a pattern without all the other event options. F3 adds or removes an event, be it a pattern, a tempo change, a mute state, etc., from a repeat group. A repeat group is an event or group of events that are repeated, and you can define what the events are in that group using F3 and how many times that group will be repeated. You'll see this in action in a moment, it's pretty intuitive. F4 moves an event backwards. F7 moves an event forwards, and if you move a repeat event, the whole associated group will be moved with it. F6 is used to rename the song or rename a pattern. Navigate to the song or pattern name and then hit F6 to do this. As mentioned earlier, erase in conjunction with the cursor position allows for individual events or the entire song to be erased. Okay, so let's do a practical example to show all this in action. I've composed two 2-bar patterns and one 4-bar pattern on slots 1, 2 and 3 respectively, which we'll use for the demonstration. I'm going to keep the bass tempo of song 1 at 120 BPM, as this is the tempo I want for now. Next I'll hit F1 and insert a mute event. I'm going to mute tracks A2 to A8 so that only track A1, the bass line, plays. Below this I hit F2 and insert a pattern. I want this to be pattern 1, which is what it defaults to, so job done. Next I'll hit F3 to add this pattern to a group, and then I'll set it to repeat twice. Below this, I'll insert another event with F1 and then use F3 to remove it from the group. Here I'll mute tracks A3 to A8, effectively unmuting track A2, the kick drum. Below this, I'll hit F1 and add another repeat event, and then F2 for another instance of pattern 1, which defaults to join the repeat group. Let's listen to what we have so far. All good. Next, I'll add another mute event, repeat event, and then pattern 2. Let's listen again. Okay, I'll continue on adding patterns, mutes, repeats, and also a swing change, and I'll talk you through what happens in real time. Okay, playing pattern 1, it's going to repeat twice. And we've unmuted track A2, so we've got the kick drum, which you can hear. Another repeat. And we unmute track A3, the snare. We're going to repeat 3 times. You can see it counting through. There's the third. Now it's muted everything except track A1. And we've added a bit of swing. And we're going to repeat this pattern 3 times. Now just tracks A1 and A3. And we're on to pattern 3 now. This is a 4-bar pattern, which is why it's going to take twice as long to cycle. Okay, very small tempo increase, and all the tracks are unmuted. You can see at the end I've got it to replay. This could be stopped, but it should go all the way back to the start. And there we go, we're back to the start, and it plays again. As mentioned before, if you're not happy with your song, you can scroll through the events and erase them, move them, or add to them. You can also still use playback override whilst in song mode if you want to tweak things as they run along. As mentioned earlier, there are some shift plus run/stop controls that I can now explain. If the song is not playing, shift plus run stop will start the song from the selected step rather than from the beginning. If the song is playing, shift plus run/stop will restart the song from the beginning. And finally, when viewing a different song than the one playing, shift plus run/stop will play the current song from the beginning. One final thing to mention, you can make a song while still in pattern mode. From the song menu, I'll navigate to song 2, which is where I want this recorded, and then I'll hit the song button to come out of song mode. If you press shift plus F2, the current pattern will then be added to the end of the song last selected in the song menu, in this case my song 2. Hit the song button to check, and there it is, along with the reset of the swing value to that of the pattern. You can then navigate through your patterns and add them to the list one by one without going into song mode, and even better, any mute or solo states selected will be recorded into your song mode. You can then of course go into song mode itself and edit, move and erase as you need. And so concludes this video on song mode.